Writing software is hard, and writing software in a team is even harder. Actually, sometimes I think it's a miracle that people manage to work together on the same code at all. As you know, code is finicky. One little mistake and you get a bug. And it's all too easy to make those mistakes, even when you have full control of your own code. So, how can multiple people work together on the same code without stomping over each other's toes all the time? And indeed, before version control became widespread, people tried really hard not to work on the same code. They did that in a few ways that usually involved splitting the project into multiple parts, separate modules. For example, a team writing software for inventory management might have split the project into the code to access the database, the user interface code, the administration interface code, and so on. You tended to have one developer for each piece of the project. And they worked pretty much in isolation, until it was finally time to put all the pieces together. That was the infamous integration phase, and it was usually a bloodbath. It wasn't uncommon to see a large project stuck in the integration phase for many months as people tried desperately to make each piece work with each other piece. These days, almost all teams use version control, and that makes it much easier to work on the same code, mostly because version control gives you the repository, and the repository is a shared authoritative version of the project that you can use at any time to get the latest changes and integrate your own changes. Once the developers have a shared repo, they don't have to wait for a final large integration. They can integrate much more frequently. Different teams integrate their code in different ways, but most teams use some form of branching and merging convention to do that. For example, one common technique is to create a temporary branch for each new feature or bug fix. Let's say that we have two developers, Michelle and Aaron. Michelle is writing code for a new feature, so she creates a new branch for that, from the master branch. And she starts committing code to this branch. And let's say that Aaron is fixing a bug, so he also creates a branch for that and commits code to that branch. Let's say Aaron's job was quick, so he's already done and he merges his changes back into the main master branch. And then Michelle finishes her feature and she also merges her new feature into the master branch. Now, if you look at this diagram, you might notice that there is a moment when there might be a conflict between the changes of Michelle and Aaron. And that's here, where Michelle commits her own changes. If she and Aaron happen to change the same area of the code, then she might have to solve conflicts at this point, to put her code and Aaron's code together. So it's like she's going through a mini integration step when she merges. And you might think, if integration is so hard, then what's the point of doing it so often? Almost every time a developer commits changes to a shared branch. If anything, shouldn't we try to do integration as little as possible? But it turns out that if you integrate more often, yes, you might still get conflicts, but those conflicts are likely to be small and easy to fix. Martin Fowler put it well by saying, if it's hard, do it more often. Integration is often painful, even with version control, but as a rule of thumb, the more frequently you do it, the less painful it is. And version control allows you to do it very frequently. Some teams integrate their code many times per day, even many times per hour. So that's maybe the most important benefit of version control. It makes it much easier to integrate code. That ultimately means that it allows modern software teams to work together. In the modern world, you usually don't have the luxury of waiting for a long integration phase to complete. Many projects deliver new versions all the time. And that kind of frequent release is made possible by version control. And finally, there is also another facet of coordinating teamwork with version control, and it's important enough that it deserves its own clip.